Hey, would you thank these guys for leading us in worship? And we need to do a little bit better than that. I want you to welcome a friend of mine. I've known Toby since we were y'all's age. So Toby's going to come and bring the word tonight. So welcome my friend, Mr. Toby Shockey.
Well, I don't know if you've ever had this happen before, but this happened to me tonight, and I am just really thankful. You go to a place and you feel like you have a few friends there. Like you might know a couple of people that are there, and then you get there and you realize you have a lot of friends there, and people that you didn't realize that were going to be there. And so that's what I walked into tonight. So many of you that I know from other places and other settings and other periods in life, and you're here tonight, and it's just great to see everybody. And those of you I don't know, it's great to meet you as well, and look forward to opening the Word with you tonight. We're going to be in a few minutes in Matthew chapter 14, and we're going to start along in verse 22 or something like that. But I was thinking about this as we were worshiping tonight, and a little bit before that. I'm especially thankful to be able to do this and still serve alongside Chris Dillashaw. But I have to tell you a little background on that for you to understand why I'm thankful to be doing this. It means that both of us are still alive. Years ago, Chris and I were actually preaching at a crusade in Kenya, in Africa. And I guess Chris had the first night and I had the second night, or however it worked. I don't remember. This has been at least 5 years ago now. But okay, even though Kenya is mostly a Christian country, there is a strong Muslim element there. The first night at the crusade, Chris gets up there. I don't remember what else he was talking about, but we're not 10 minutes into the message, and he is yelling, and Allah can't save you, and trusting in the Quran can't save you. Only Jesus is going to get you into heaven. All of which is true, but I'm sitting right over here thinking, he's getting us killed. We are going to Jesus tonight. The bomb is going to go off. We're going kablooey on the stage. Thank you very much, Chris, for getting us killed. Well, boldly proclaim the gospel. And he did, and we survived. And many points along the way, it is a miracle of God that no one else has killed us, including Muslims and other people like that. But we're still alive and kicking. But I was reminded of another story as we start this out tonight, and thankfully this did not happen to me, but I saw it. But we were eating at one of those really cheap, all-you-can-eat Chinese food buffets one time, a group of friends. You know, all-you-can-eat Chinese food for $5.99, $6.99, or whatever, and the trade-off is you might be in the bathroom for the next week, but it was really good while you were there, and it was cheap. And so we're minding our own business, eating our food, having a good time, and suddenly I hear this snap, this cracking sound from across the room, and I looked over to this side of the room from where I was sitting, and all I see is feet in the air. This poor man is eating his food, minding his own business, and his chair that he was sitting on just disintegrated, and it took him to the ground, and all you see is his feet fly up in the air. It is terrible. And we tried, as God is my witness, we tried not to laugh. But when you're with your friends and some guy's feet are flying in the air because his chair just collapsed under him, you're not going to be able to not laugh at that. And I got to tell you, he wasn't a big fella. I mean, it was normal-sized guy, and now he's just laying on the floor, and he never knew what happened other than I was eating 1 minute the Mugu Gai Pan, and then boom, it's over. And his feet are in the air, and what happened? I just about got my composure. I just about got to where I could look at the rest of my friends and not be laughing. And then one of the other friends at the table says, well, you know, that could mean that's all you can eat. And we just lost it all over again. And the poor guy knew that we were laughing at him and everything. And I guess it had nothing to do with how much Chinese food he ate, but we don't know that for sure. So I want you to think about something with that. And as I was thinking about that today and laughing about that and rehearsing that in my mind, and yeah, I have a sick sense of humor. Just get used to it, because that kind of stuff is funny. I don't care what you say. People falling, people getting hit with stuff. It's good stuff. Now, here's where we're going with this. A little bit. That man had faith. Maybe he put his faith in the wrong place, but you can't say he didn't have faith. He put his faith in that chair. Notice what you're sitting in right now. There's no Chinese food going around, but you're betting that that chair that you're sitting in is going to hold you up. And if it doesn't, some of us promise not to laugh. I actually saw this the other day, made me laugh. Here's how you know if you're old or if you're young. This is brilliant, whoever came up with this. You can test this out. If you fall down in front of a large group of people and everybody laughs at you, you're young. If you fall down in front of a large group of people and people run and they panic and they're worried about you, you're old. That's how you know. I don't want to mention any names, but I know of at least a couple people who are here tonight who are older than I am, so you might want to keep that in mind. Matthew chapter 14. We're going to start in verse 22. A little background before we get to where we're going to be really focusing tonight. It says this: immediately he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone, but the boat that had the disciples in it by this time was a long way from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. Jesus wants to be alone. He wants to pray by himself. He wants to get away from the people in the crowds and even his own disciples. You guys go on ahead, take the boat across the lake. I'll see you. I'll meet you later. Okay, but they're used to Jesus saying strange things, and they've learned, at least in part by that time, just go do it, just do what he says. So they head right off into the wind, and then a strange thing happens. And in the fourth watch of the night, which we're guessing to be sometime between 3 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the morning, which is not a good time, he came to them walking on the sea. And as you can imagine, it freaked him out a little bit. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified. And they said, "It's a ghost." And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them and said, "Take heart, it is I. Don't be afraid." Now, we don't know how far Jesus was away from them at that point when he said that, but they weren't expecting even Jesus to come walking out on the water to where they were, and they freaked out and they were terrified. Jesus said, "Don't worry about it. It's me. Everything's fine." And here it is. It had to be Peter. It's always Peter. Has this crazy idea. All right. Peter answered him in verse 28, "Lord, if it's you, command me to come to you on the water." Who does that? Now, you can read different people, and there's some different ideas, and I'm still undecided. Is what Peter did an act of faith, or was it just kind of Peter whose mouth runneth over, and he just has no filter and says whatever he thinks to say, and it just comes out? But then Jesus says something amazing. Come on. You want to walk on the water? Come on. Verse 29, he said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. He's moving in the direction of Jesus. We don't know how long this takes. We don't know how many steps he actually took on the water, but he's doing it. Got to wonder what the other 11 guys are thinking at this point. Is it, wow, that's really cool? Or, no, there's Peter. That's just what he does. We all have that friend, right? But when he saw the wind, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." And Jesus reached out his hand and took hold of him, saying to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" Now I have to say this just to relieve some of your, maybe your anticipation about this. We're not going to talk about the importance of getting out of the boat and walking by faith tonight. That's not what this is about. This is not about getting out of the boat. And where I'm going to come from with this tonight is, let's just say that as followers of Jesus, you were here tonight as a follower of Jesus, and we're going to say that we've all stepped out of the boat, and you would not be here tonight, at least at some level, if you had not said, you know what, I want to follow Jesus. I want to be like him. I want to pursue him with how I'm living in my life. And this whole series that we're doing is about distractions and how we do that, because we know that that journey, if we've already stepped out of the boat and we're going to come after Jesus, we're going to go where he's going, it's not that easy. And there are all kinds of distractions that are going to present themselves. And I want to focus on one particular area. And maybe this is for you tonight. Or maybe this is for you sometime later on in the future. Or maybe this is going to help you process some stuff that's already happened in your own life. Because here it is. Peter's walking toward Jesus. Is he trusting in Jesus? Absolutely. He has put his faith in Jesus, and he has taken action in walking out, literally walking out that faith. Good for Peter. Good job. But the problem is, when he steps out, he's looking at Jesus, and it doesn't take long where he realizes, I'm actually doing this. This is actually happening. I'm actually stepped out and doing this thing. But he took his eyes off of Jesus, and understandably, he sees the wind. He doesn't literally see the wind. He sees the effects of the wind, and he sees the waves, and it freaks him out. Not only am I doing this, I'm actually walking on the water, but I'm taking a risk here, and this could overwhelm me. This could take me down. And it wasn't that the wind and the waves took him down. It's that he took his eyes off of Jesus, and that caused him to sink. And I love what it says there. Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and pulled him up. And he made it clear, Peter, this is because you doubted. This is because you didn't have faith for just a moment. Peter did have faith to step out there, and he did. Give him credit. He did have faith. When he started to sink, he didn't start dog paddling back to the boat. He didn't scream for the guys in the boat to come help him. He reached up and he cried out and he said, "Lord, save me." So maybe this is you tonight. You're walking towards Jesus. You're pursuing Jesus. You have put your faith in Jesus. And right now, in this moment, at some moment this started and it continues up till right now, and it will continue for the rest of your life. You are trusting in Jesus to get you out of hell, to save you from hell. And that's a great thing, because don't want to do that. Had enough of it here on earth, don't want to experience hell for eternity. We get that. We understand that. We've walked away from that. We're trusting in Jesus for that. But this is what happens. I don't know how. I don't know when, I just know it's going to happen. The wind and the waves are going to come. Whether it's some big horrible tragedy that happens in your life, or whether it's just a series of disappointments, you're going to have wind and you're going to have waves, and all of those things that are going to happen in your life that are going to come after you. Every time it's going to be a temptation for you to focus on how big your problem is. Every time it's going to be a temptation for you to take your eyes off Jesus and for you to look at, man, this thing's huge. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this situation. I don't know what God is going to do in this situation. And what has to happen every time is Jesus has to be bigger than the problem. Oh, yeah. You know what? We already know that. Jesus is bigger than the problem. We can say that, and we get that in our minds. But even tonight during worship, as you're thinking about your problems, as you're thinking about what you're facing, is Jesus really bigger than your problem? Because this isn't about really your problem. This isn't about the issue that you're facing, that crisis that might be going on, that tragedy that you're walking through. This is, what is your perspective on God? What is your perspective on Jesus? Peter asked, if it's you, let me come out to you on the water. And Jesus said, okay. You think Jesus knew he was going to fail? Oh, yeah. I'll just give this a few minutes. There he goes. He was ready. He was there to rescue him. But Jesus knew what was going to happen. Did he let Peter fail? Oh, absolutely. Did he let him leave the boat knowing that he was going to fail? Sure. So what did he want to prove to Peter? One, you got to keep your eyes on me. Also, when you do fall, and you're going to fall, and you do get distracted, and you're going to get distracted, I'm going to be right there to pick you up. Immediately, he reached out his hand, and he pulled him up, and he saved him. And in so many words, he said, Peter, your faith has got to be in me, not in your ability to navigate the waves, not in your ability to walk on the water. Because see, that's what we do. We're saved. Yay, we're not going to hell. But we're not depending on Jesus for anything else other than to get us to heaven. We're not depending on Jesus for what we need daily. We're not looking to Jesus when those crisis events come up in our lives. And what happens is this test that you have, mom and dad not getting along, you and your siblings fighting, your family going through financial problems, people don't seem to like you, all of those problems that come up, and we make those bigger than Jesus because we're not focused on Jesus. And listen, we worship God not because God needs our songs, not because God is having self-esteem issues and he needs us to say nice things about him to make him feel good about himself. We worship God because in worship, when we really engage our hearts with who God is, that's where we experience God, and that's when we remind ourselves, my problem, my issues, my life is nothing compared to how big my God is. And worship is about making the problem smaller and letting our God be bigger and letting our God be who he is. I had a friend of mine who was a Navy chaplain, and he told me this story. He got deployed to the Middle East Wasn't really his choice, but that's where he got deployed to. And he was traveling as the chaplain. He was traveling with a group of Navy SEALs. These guys go to not very nice places in the world. The Navy SEALs go to places where you can get killed and nobody will ever hear about it, type of places. One day, he's riding along with these guys, and they're in a convoy, these Humvees going along, and he didn't tell me what city, but in some very dangerous city of the world, and there's a traffic jam, and these Humvees are backed up in traffic, and there's nowhere for them to go, forward, backwards, left or right, and here they are, like a sitting duck, like a target just sitting there. Everybody in this foreign country knows these are Americans, these are military, and in his mind, if there's a terrorist within anywhere close, we're in trouble. And the sergeant, the leader that was with him, he saw the look on his face, and he could tell my friend was pretty scared. And this is a big man. This is a scary man if you met him. And I'm telling you, if he's scared, there's something to be scared about. But the sergeant said to my friend, they call the chaplains chaps. He said, "Chaps, I know you look really worried right now, but I tell you what you need to do. Just watch me. When I get scared, you know it's time to be scared. But if I don't look like I'm scared, then you're just fine." He said as soon as he said that, this guy knows, this guy's experienced it all. He said as soon as he said that, I looked at him, he didn't look like he was scared. So all of a sudden, I'm not scared anymore. Why do I tell you that story? Because in worship, because in times in God's Word, if we will just look to Him, one thing for sure that we're going to see about God is He's not scared, He's not worried, He's not intimidated. He knows where all of this is going. He knows about your future. He knows about your problem. And if God's not worried about it, if God's got it all under control, if God knows where the future is going, if He holds tomorrow, if He's in control, then we just fix our eyes to Him and look to Him. It doesn't make our problems go away, but the wind, it's not so bad anymore. The waves are not so overwhelming anymore. And even when they do take us down, He pulls us right back up if we look to Him. Pray with me. God, we trust in your word, what it tells us, and we trust in your character, and we rejoice in the fact tonight that you got it all under control. We are so good at focusing on how big our problems are, and we forget how big you are. I pray that that reality would be so true in our hearts tonight. Grow us in our faith, grow us in our trust, and grow us in our love and our awe of who you are. May that be so real in how we live our lives. We love you. Amen. You guys are dismissed to your life groups.